Okay.
All right, I got
Good
a
to
little
go.
thing came up. Okay, this is John Kruger. It is October the 18th, 2021. And I'm calling the Board of Trustees meeting of the Estes Valley Library District to order. And I'll ask if there were any public comments submitted. None. Okay. So we will move to our consent agenda. The consent agenda, I guess I should state who's all present, although the recording would show that. Peter Johnson, David Hemphill, Kay Weston, Beth Ellis with the board, staff, Claudine Perot, Joanna Stensland, and Cindy Seckman from the Friends and Foundation Ann Finley. And we have guests with us tonight, Adam Shake and Jim McGibney. I hope I said that right, Jim. And we'll get to that in a moment. First, we'll consider the consent agenda, which includes the Board of Trustees meeting minutes from September 20th, 2021, income and expense year-to-date report, year-to-date end of September 2021, and the study session material, which was the initial 2022 draft budget review dated October 7th. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, John.
David moves. A second?
Second.
Pete seconds. Thank you. Any items anyone has desire to edit or to remove from the consent agenda? I see no one wanting to do that. So I'll ask for a verbal approval. Ayes, those that approve.
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you. So tonight, as I mentioned, we have two guests from EDC, which is the Economic Development Corporation. Adam Shake, who is the president CEO, and Jim McGibney, who is the board chair. Gentlemen, we normally allow 15 to 20 minutes on guest presentations. I would express appreciation for the detailed information that you sent and is in our packet, but hope that you'll do some kind of summary and not try to cover all of that material.
Oh, I promise you we won't. We'll be very, very careful with your time.
That's fine.
We have the same with our board meeting. First of all, thank you. I'm going to kick us off, and then Adam's going to be telling you all the smart stuff. So Adam and I represent the Economic Development Corporation, which was started in 2013 in the Estes Valley. But before I get too far down that road, we are residents of Estes Park since 1968, thereabout. We purchased some property up off Little Valley, built a home, a first small home in 1989, 1990. And then I enlisted my children, who were then teenagers. We built an addition to the home together. And they got to learn what labor is all about. They grew up the summers in Estes Park. We thank you. But they also grew up in the Hobbit Library down in Bond Park. And we would go down to the library on Saturday afternoon, and we'd lose them for a better part of a half hour as they found comfortable couches and lots of books. And we appreciate how much value the library brings to this community and how much you do for the community. And we thank you very much for that. Estes Park EDC started in 2013, as I said, and we had an inauguration by fire. The first thing were the floods. And literally the day that we opened our doors, we were inundated figuratively and inundated physically. It was a trying few years, and Estes Park played a very significant role in raising money for the rebuild. The EDC also in 2015 began to work on a couple of projects that you see the benefit of today. One was is the broadband that you have being installed all across the valley. We started that then, and we were engaged with working with the legislature and making sure that got passed. We also began work on what Adam's going to describe as our e-commerce center. And the e-commerce center was going to be a touchstone for our work for a number of years, and that's exactly what it's turned into. We've had some enormously good success. And as you saw in all of our goals, all of our operating plan, all of the things that we're focused on, the good news is we're not focused on the pandemic so much right now. We will be enjoying masks in our board meeting this week as we're having to wear them again. But we have a mission, and I'm going to read that real quickly because it's short. The mission of Estes Park EDC is to build a stronger, more broadly based economy and tax base by facilitating local businesses to reach their full economic potential and attracting new businesses that create primary jobs and new employment opportunities. And that is where we have stayed focused. And we've the e-center, e-commerce center has been particularly good, a good tool for us as we are growing companies in the valley. This year, Adam, I'm going to steal a little bit of thunder. The second round of a second cohort that are going to go through our e-center program, which is 6 months long, is 23 new companies. And that's in the Estes Valley. And we do cover the Estes Valley, which is roughly contiguous with the school district. So that'll give you a sense of how widely we spread. We are starting now to build stronger partnerships with Northern Colorado. And in particular, we're going to have a visit with a number of folks from Larimer County. The leadership, including our commissioner, are going to be joining us as we look at our newest project, which is on housing for workforce, not low income, but workforce housing, because that is probably our biggest impediment to growth and to continue to broaden the strength of the Estes Valley. And we think we can make quite a difference there. The other thing I'm going to talk about quickly, and then Adam can give you all the meat, is we are unique in the way we are founded. We are a corporation. And as a corporation in 2013, and I'm going to give the credit to Dr. Pickering for this one, they looked long and hard about how to form, how to lead this community in the area of business growth. And we decided that to be on the board, you have to be an investor. So we're not using funds that are granted by the county to us. We're using funds that the members of economic development invest. And that's what we started with, and that's what we do. And for example, the library is a member of EDC, and we thank you for that, by the way. And your funds have gone to help us do the projects that we're doing and grow EDC, and it's spread across the valley. So that's kind of a real brief introduction. I'll let Adams come in and tackle the program of work that you were able to read. And by the way, he is the driving force with us right now. I mean, basically I come in, sit down, and get out of the way. So I'm very lucky to have that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jim. And like Jim said, I want to be cognizant of your time, and thank you again for having us on here. I think it's very important that the EDC reach out to not only member organizations that sit on our board of directors, but stakeholders throughout the community to let them know what we're up to. And as many of you may know, we have a very large board, and I like to say that our board is made up of organizational seats. As an example, the hospital, the town of Estes Park, the library, the Wrexham Park District, the YMCA of the Rockies. All of these organizations sit on our board. And when one of the C-level executives moves on or retires or leaves the position, a new representative of that organization will come and sit on our board. So you and Claudine have been an active part in our board since 2013. So we want to thank you for that. I'm not going to take much time going through the operating plan. You know, there's a saying, you know, you're known by who you surround yourself with. Well, I like to think that I'm known by how I can complete the priority objectives on my operating plan. So I'm going to just kind of go down through a couple of them. You know, when we started the operating plan, we had left out COVID. And so we went back and added COVID as our main priority for the community. And we've done a lot of work with the assistance of the town of Estes Park. A couple of things that we did was we helped give $300,000 of direct checks to businesses this year through the town of Estes Park. They originally gave us $150,000 to distribute. We recognized that there was about a $250,000 need at the time. So I went back to the town board trustees and I asked for more, thinking that I wasn't going to get it, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. Well, they gave it to me. So that was very nice. We also assisted a lot of folks with PPP and EIDL. And though I can't take credit for this, I like to say that we helped assist businesses get over $20 million in PPP and EIDL loans in Estes Park. Those are just a couple of the COVID things. I want to talk very quickly about the Entrepreneurial Center. Like Jim said, the e-Center was started in 2015, and we have this year we got a $460,000 EDA grant from the Economic Development Administration, which is a federal grant. It's the largest grant that we've ever gotten. And it allowed us to basically triple the size of what we call the BASE program, which is our Business Accelerator Services of Estes program. And as Jim alluded to, it's a 6-month program. And we have over 20 people in the program representing over a dozen businesses. The program is a 6-month program. They meet once a month, and we have trainers from UC and DU and the Innisphere and things like that. So we go out and we pay for the trainers to come up and train the folks. We also assign each one of the people in the program a business mentor, and that mentor works with them throughout the year. And it has really become a great program, and it's been written about both on a local, state, and national level. And I apologize, I was good. Oh, there we go. I want to talk, I'll just mention very quickly that we put together an infographic. And last year, in our 2021 year, we engaged with 143 local businesses and increased new capital investment in wages in the Estes Valley by $1.4 million. This program last year helped create 6 new jobs in the Estes Valley. And for every $1 spent by the e-Center, it returned $7 to the Estes Valley community, which we're very proud of. We think that's a really good return on investment. We had 5 graduate companies from our 2021 BASE program, which is really saying something now that our 21-22 program has about 20 businesses in it. And we helped create $200,000 in new salary dollars in the Estes Valley, as well as $203,000 in income received from OEDIT and EDA grants just this year. That $460,000 EDA grant I was telling you about is actually a 3-year reimbursable grant. So that's spread over 3 years. I'm not going to take too much more time on that. You know, our operating plan, we spend a lot of time, just like you folks do, and all good organizations do. One of our major priorities is workforce housing, and I'll be very quick on this. I'm going to kind of go back into the history in reference to workforce housing and the work the EDC's done. We have worked with the town originally to increase the height and the density in the RM zone. We had a height limit which did not allow for third-story development for workforce housing. A number of developers said that they would never build workforce housing in Estes Park because they don't make any money till they hit the third floor. So we worked with Randy Hunt to increase the height and density in the RM zone. And I always like to say that the RM zone is literally 1% of the Estes Valley. So we're not talking about a very large area here. We've also been working with the town to offer amortized tap fees. So these are tap fees that a developer would need to pay when they start construction. Previously, the town always asked the developers to write a big check for the whole thing up front. Some developers found that they had a $2 million tap fee bill and they just couldn't get past that gap in financing. So the town recently authorized amortization of those tap fees to help make it a little bit easier for developers to develop workforce housing, as an example. The town also recently changed code 14-21. They amended that code, which would allow for increased height in the downtown core. That increased height is not strictly, it's not restricted to workforce housing. It can also include commercial, but what it cannot include is short-term rentals. So the hope is that over the years, the next 10, 20, 30 years, as downtown becomes redeveloped, because it will need to be redeveloped at some point, we get some workforce housing in the downtown core. So those are just kind of a couple examples of some of the things that we've done over the last year or two.
So before we wear out our welcome, can I move to
Yeah, absolutely.
one other topic? How do we work with the library? Claudine and I sat and talked about that at length about a month and a half, 2 months ago, because I think we have missed a great opportunity to date, and we want to correct that. That we think that the library, and I said that, is a unique asset within the community. You reach out from the library, you reach worldwide for knowledge. And we think that's extremely important. And now with the high-speed internet in place, that is a tool that becomes more profound. By the way, you know that the University of Denver has purchased a new campus site just off Red Feather Lakes. And if you have not made that connection, do so quickly. They will be doing classes up there literally at this next fall. But we're looking at, I asked Claudine, can we help with the makerspace? The makerspace may actually be an interesting fit to the e-center, because the e-center is entrepreneurial. We have used some of your rooms for meetings. We can do more. Can we make presentations in the library that would attract people to the library? We are open. We think one thing that we owe our members is to make sure that we stand up and say, how can we help you? This last 2 years, we really didn't have a lot of choice, because the first year it was, how can we survive? And it's kind of like everybody else, because the pandemic was so great. But we got up and worked every day. But that, we'd like you to think about that. And we'd like to continue the conversation. This was just an introduction tonight. But we'd like to continue the conversation and tell you more about the e-center, and make sure that we tell the cohort about the library and the sources. We also have started a reading program within the Entrepreneurial Center that has selected a monthly book. Adam, I think we did the first one a week and a half ago.
Yep, that's correct.
There's going to be 5 total.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of affinity. We also want to say thank you for the time tonight, because we know you have a lot of other things to deal with, but thank you. And if you have questions, we're happy to answer.
Yeah, and we always give folks an opportunity to ask some questions. I'm going to kick it off, if I may, and then if anyone else has a question, please let me know. You mentioned a number of new businesses. I'm curious, of those new businesses, how many have become investors in EDC?
That's a great question. Thank you. You know, the current program it's interesting because the program is technically, it's not just for new businesses. It's also for businesses that want to scale as well.
Sure.
And I can mention some of the businesses here because the cohorts have agreed that, we can let people know. So Amy with Kind Coffee is just a great example of a new business who's always trying to figure out a pivot. Amy is a great businesswoman. She started the ice cream shop when she couldn't have people in the coffee shop. So she started that as a business pivot. So that's one example. We have a number of downtown retailers. We also have a number of businesses that are just starting businesses, whether they're food trucks. We have somebody who's starting an insurance company here in Estes Park, brand new insurance company. We have somebody who is playing classical music at wedding venues. So it really runs the gamut. We don't have any of those businesses that are investing in the EDC. We started a program a couple months ago called the Sustaining Supporter Program. And what that does is that allows organizations and or businesses to invest in economic development without having to sit on our board of directors, as an example. We find that a lot of businesses, they want to invest, but they don't have the time to sit on another board of directors. So that's a program that we're rolling out right now. And we feel like we'll have more investments from small businesses that just don't have the time to be on a board of directors.
Sure. So Adam, we have Diane.
Yep.
Who's a board member.
Which many of you know Diane. Yeah.
We also have Greg
Rosner with Skyrun. He's got 4 employees going through the program right now.
Good.
We have Paul Pewterbaugh.
Yep.
So we have several that are members of our board.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question? Board members? Okay. Thank you very much, Adam and Jim, for the presentation. Oh, Claudine.
I just wanted to add one thing, John, which is one of the benefits of anyone sitting on the EDC board as an investor is I do sit on a number of committees and intergovernmental managers and other tables where the objective is to have a table big enough where we are networking effectively and knowing what's going on in the Valley, and if possible, supporting one another. And I can genuinely say that the EDC is my favorite. I'm sorry, I'm being recorded, but it's true. For the point of, it's not just government sitting together, it's not just business people sitting together, it's not just nonprofits or the Y sitting together. All of us are at the table. The topics may not always be relevant to the public library, obviously, but it is very much true that I think I understand more about the pulse of the community because of the EDC's investor table than anywhere else in town. So thank you for all the kind overtures about reaching out to the library and making sure you're serving us. We always want that to be in return, Jim and Adam, but again, I don't think you can say enough the value of just cross-pollination in a community like ours. So thank you.
Thank you, Claudine.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your time too.
Thanks for your presentation, and we appreciate all the good that EDC is doing for our community.
Take care.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to our discussions and reports. Government affairs. I want you to know that we have started working on next year's calendar. So I invite any suggestions that any board members have with regard to our study session content, and as well as other possible guests. We have been discussing that. One of the things that we've done in the past is invite new staff folks to come and introduce themselves. Actually, a couple of years back, we had that done, separate board meetings where the entire team kind of shared. And since we have several newer members, we're talking about doing that again at board meetings, but we may have some other guests that we want to include. It can work apparently by Zoom as well as in person. So we'll get back to doing a little bit of that as well. Amongst the topics, perhaps an update and a review of the sunshine law and how it applies to us would be one of the possible things. So we'll be rolling out that later, probably in December, or at the very latest, early in January, what our meeting dates and topics will be. Okay. I think that's all I have from the government affairs as of right now. We've brought up a number of other things over the past month or so. So those are still out there for us to consider and to be working on with the comprehensive plan, the town's comprehensive plan committee. And Claudine and I are going to try and get that scheduled. We haven't been able to yet, but we'll get that scheduled to have that discussion with them. Okay. Turn to the policy committee. Pete Johnson.
Okay. Last week, John and I met with Claudine and Joanna and Cindy to talk about the large employee handbook policy and also the volunteer policy. We wanted to talk about progress, and they'd made a lot of progress. It's in pretty good shape, real good shape, because they've gone through it, every word of it. And then they also, Claudine passed it on to the Employers Council. So they've put their stamp on it as well. We had a few, John and I had 2 or 3 suggestions that they're going to implement into there. However, the staff is still kind of working it, moving sections around, wordsmithing a little bit. And so we're putting it off till the November Board of Trustees meeting to actually approve. We actually, one of the moves we made last week was just to reorder it so that things like ethics and employee professional conduct and workplace regulations were more up the front of the policy before we got into the detail of like benefits and pay and things like that. So a little bit of that going on. Claudine also wants to have meetings with employees at some point. Bottom line is it'll be on the November agenda. And at that time, we hope to get it approved for 2022. And also, but in the background, you should know about that one of the big areas that they're looking at is paid time off. And so in 2022, we're probably going to look to get some outside help, to get some data to see, how competitive our PTO is, and is it too lucrative? Is it not lucrative enough? And any changes that would happen in that would probably go into effect in 2023, January of 2023. So anyway, that's what's going on. That's a little bit of why we delayed it for another month. So you have the packet, in your packet, you've got the lengthy employee handbook. You've also got the volunteer policy. So we just like that you would, if you could, find some time to look through both of them before the next Board of Trustees meeting in November, and then we'll submit it for approval. So that's it.
Okay. Thank
Anything
you.
else, Claudine or John? Or
Kay has a question about it.
Yeah, Pete, are we going to have a document that notes the changes, or is that not going to really work with everything that's being done?
Claudine.
Hey, that was sent. That's a great question, because that's something Pete asked us to do a few months ago. And that was attached to those 2. So there were, this was a messy board packet delivery. So allow me to do it again. You received 3 emails, and in those emails, one of them had 4 attachments, 2 of the policy and 2 of the highlights that Joanna Stensland put together for all of us. So I can, sometimes I just need to be resent, but that was a lot of emails for what should have been one meeting and one. Let me just resend it out. And the good news is the short answer is yes.
Okay. Because I saw the policies, I didn't see the highlights, and So if you would
they're
resend
not,
it.
they're not within the policy itself. There's a separate document that highlights where different changes were made. So
Okay.
it's a four
Okay.
page
There's a
document, just
couple pages,
highlights
yeah.
where the different changes are found.
And
And
frankly, Kay, if we didn't have that, I mean, that document is so long, it'd be impossible to figure out where the changes were. So I'm very appreciative that they were able to take that page and a half, summarize those changes. It made it so much easier.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, and there were multiple inputs as far as edits on it. And so to try to track and follow all of that would be pretty difficult. So hopefully this, can you see it? You can't see it.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
There it
Thanks,
is.
John.
If
Physical
that
evidence.
document will be helpful. Okay. Any other questions with regard to those two policies? A big reason to share them with you, as Pete said, is they are large documents, and we wanted to give you opportunity to read through them, check through them, see if you have any comments well before that next meeting. Okay. All right. Library Director's Report. Claudine, your monthly report first.
I will say that I think the report is pretty self-explanatory. You always ask me, John, if there's something I'd like to highlight. Perhaps just that we've been very successful, knock on wood, this year after a year of the Great Migration taking its toll. We've been very fortunate to make some new hires that are doing extremely well. And Joanna gets credit again as we were looking through our staff development, which we do take seriously every year, and we do a full calendar, and things change about 10-20%, but mostly we stick to what are the library's strategic priorities, how can we get better at delivering them, and some basic team building exercises. But with so many new staff members, it was just so plain as day to say we need to involve them in our curmudgeonly old-fashioned staff development plans. And so Joe has launched that committee with kind of our youngest and newest employees, and we're looking forward to kind of adapting with multi-generational cohorts at the library. So thanks, Joe, for that. I think that's my biggest highlight.
Okay.
Joe's work.
Good. Joe didn't want to say that, I'm sure. Anyone have any other questions? The other key item in there is the tech service comments about developing the village catalog standards. Beth, are you involved in that? Do you know about it?
I do know about it. I know it's very necessary. There's lots of cleanup to do with duplication and such, but yeah.
Okay.
I think it's awesome.
And our new board member will be involved, I imagine, too. Okay. All right. Nobody has any other questions for Claudine there? Okay, we'll move to the quarterly report then. Highlights.
I think the biggest highlight to capture up front is really it was an operating plan. It was 2021 was designed. The intent was we were prepared to begin a new 3 to 5 year plan. And with the disruption caused by COVID, my effort was to produce things that were measurable, that could be done with our existing or fewer staff. I admit readily that I underestimated the amount of staff turnover we would experience. And I asked the staff not to say too often in their reporting due to staff turnover or due to low staff numbers. So I hope to spare you that, but also to acknowledge it at the top. Some things have been delayed, and I'll just use on like page 1 of the third quarter. I think it says a lot, which is our focus on early literacy. We have very, Kay, I believe I recall you saying these were somewhat ambitious goals. They remain so. But our backwards design plan was already put on hold to 2022. And then DIBBLES, which is the indicator of readiness to learn, it's what the kids get their first day of kindergarten. The schools are not doing those yet, right? Because the kids are coming off of a year of, I don't know what the right word is politically here, but inconsistent practices with public schooling. So we don't even have their scores. So it's just like, wow, was that an assumption that I that I didn't call right? I think DIBBLES has been around since the 80s. I chose to use it as a metric the year they stopped using it. So, I mean, it's paused, by the way, for what it's worth. They're delaying it at the school district, but I use it as an example of, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize that this is an unusually unproductive results report. That's my highlight, Mr. President.
Okay.
We can
Anyone?
go a little further down. I think that once we come off of programming, which saw the greatest turnover and the greatest change in staff, and you move on to delivery of materials and our proficiency with getting staff up to speed to make the best use of our investments, things become a little bit more measurable and recognizable. And then, of course, once we get to our growing internally to succeed externally, we've had such a stable administrative team that those, as you can see, those achievements have been made.
Yep.
So that's the end of my report, and I'd be really happy to answer any questions, John.
Anyone have any questions or comments about the quarterly report? Okay, unmute yourself.
Yeah. Claudine, when you look at the report, are there any winners? Or are there anything better than expected, or anything we can get excited about?
I think I'll share with you what I put in our report to the Friends and Foundation. And that is, there are certain items that are not part of our kind of pure metrics that I'd be very happy to share. And one of them is, you might remember that with early literacy as our number one, it's not just the first of 5, but our number one goal strategically, we were successful in getting a lot of funding. We had a $30,000 gift from a donor. We had the school foundation gifted to our foundation for the books to 4-year-olds, right? Just letting you know how far and wide the community response was. So one of the sub projects for that is something called Unite for Literacy, and that's the one where we mail 4 of those little tiny primer books to people, to families' homes. And of course, Melanie, our one remaining program librarian from 2019 to 2020, 2021, her consistency and her skill set really does need to be acknowledged. So she partnered with the school district, and on kindergarten roundup day, which is that wonderful day where anyone who's registering for kindergarten shows up, and we average about 80 kids coming into the school for kindergarten each year. And she got, what did she get? 55 kids. It's actually a really high number, and we won't know the results, right? You know, that's what would that be? That would be an output measure, right? The input was the support of the grant tours and the community, and output would be the number of kids who register. It'll be a while until we know about the outcome, until we get the results from the school about how the kids are prepared, because the whole point is maybe we could just measure how many kids signed up, how many families signed up. But what we'd like to know is, are we actually impacting family reading? Sorry, I know, should I stop now? That is what we're all about. And by gum, if we didn't hit a pretty high mark, our first of many years.
I think the number of signups and kits that are going out under the conditions that we're experiencing is pretty nice. Really nice thing. Good start. Anybody else have any questions or comments about the report? I always enjoy reading through it, and I find it helpful in understanding a bit more of what's going on. It is operations, and it's good that we support it. Okay.
Thanks for your question.
Yep. All right. Let's see. I've lost something. There it is. Friends and Foundation, Ann Finley.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the good news first, highlight the good news. The Cliffhanger met their annual goal of 80,000 in the first 9 months. So we're really excited about that. And the next 3 months already we're, doing really well. So that's pretty exciting news for the foundation. Then segueing into some of the not so good news. So we do not have a vice president or a president for next year for the foundation. We're working really hard on trying to come up with some strategies, and we've asked, our nominating committee has worked really hard asking a lot of people, and it hasn't come to fruition. So that's something we're struggling with right now with the foundation. Just wanted to let you guys know that. I think it's important that you do. We've had 2 members step down from the board for personal reasons, and one of them was going to be the president. So she is no longer. Susan Miller has stepped down from the board. So we'll just keep you posted. Sarah and I are working really hard, and we've had some direction from Claudine, and we'll let you know what happens.
Okay, appreciate that.
Does anyone have any questions?
I would like to share, you did a orientation that
That's
Claudine
right.
and I participated in for 3 new board members.
Yep, we have a full board now. So that's, on one side, that's really good. We have the full board. It's just that none of that full board really wants to do some of the work yet. I mean, they're new, and I get it. So, yeah. So
Okay.
that's the report from the foundation. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ann at this point? Okay. Claudine and I will be participating in their board meeting, which is next Monday afternoon at 2 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the discussions and reports. We'll move to our action items. The first one is to approve the 2022 library closure dates. You have that list. Basically, there are 9 days designated for closure, complete closure, and 1 early closure for December 31st. May I have a motion to approve?
John, I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you, David. And a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, I'm gonna take Kay's second on that. Thank you. Any discussion or questions with regard to those closures? If you haven't looked at the your calendar for next year in relation, I might note that several of those are weekend days. Some of our holidays, normal holidays, are falling on weekends next year. So just the way it goes some years. And you may want to look at the employee handbook to see what happens if people's days off are weekends when it's on holiday and the library is closed. Okay. No questions, and voice vote, please. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. We will move then to the Finance Committee. David, I'll turn it to you to make a motion with regard to accepting the official 2022 proposed budget.
Should I start with that motion, John? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
please. You know, motion.
I will move. I will move for board approval of the draft budget as presented tonight. So.
And we need a second, then, please.
Second.
Pete seconds. Thank you. All right. Would you like to speak to that, David?
Well, in my first look at the presentation tonight, it's not much different than we looked at our study session. Minor changes in the programs and outreach and administration. Claudine or Cindy, is there any comments on those changes? Anything we should know?
I would note that we have excellent highlights that were created also. So if you have specifics on any of those, you might refer to those, but I'll turn it to Claudine if you have anything you want to offer.
I would love to ask Cindy. I can't remember. There's about a $6,000 difference between them. Cindy, could you remind us what the difference is from?
Yes, I can go through that quickly. We hopefully quickly.
I can kill time while you're looking, Cindy. Thank you.
Give me just a
You actually
second.
make me feel better because I was like, wait, we talked about it and I can't recall. And so take your time.
Well, unless people have specific questions about them, I don't think there's a need necessarily to go over $6,000 element, because we'll probably have larger changes in that between now and the next version. I would note though, under the good news and the highlights, you still had it in there as 126,000 going to reserves, and I believe that's 120,000 now because of that $6,000 change.
Oh, you're right.
So
you're right.
you might just note that. That's no big thing. Okay.
I will get that updated.
Sure.
Thanks, Cindy.
Anyone have any others?
I would like to add one thing to
Yeah.
David's, the treasurer's presentation, which is at this meeting as ever, John, the real value in terms of board governance is to formally acknowledge receipt. And that's what this is about, is that Cindy and Claudine met our legal obligation through statute to get that to you by the 15th. You've had a chance to review it, and that this board meeting is to formally receive it. So if you want to talk about it, we can, but just as a reminder of what you're doing here tonight.
Right.
And John, I agree. It was minimal adjustments, and that's all I saw it was, as adjustments more than anything of significance. And so I just move that we go ahead and accept the draft budget and look forward to any changes in the final budget.
Okay. All right. So we have the draft budget received prior to October 15th, 2021 for our 2022 proposed budget. All in favor? Again, voice vote. Please say aye.
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 Unanimous. We have a second motion then that is needed. This is ordering the publication of notice of the budget. David?
Well, I would just move that the Claudine publish the notice as appropriate in the local media as required
And on the website.
and on the website.
All right, thank you. A second? You can raise your hand if you don't want to speak.
Second.
Okay, seconded. Okay, thank you. Again, I don't think there's a need for any discussion on this. It's standard procedure that we need to do. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And that is unanimous. Thank you.
And John, I would just add, we had a good discussion while you were gallivanting in France on the budget. So.
Oh, well, thanks for bringing that up. I can assure you I truly missed participating in that discussion, but I did read and see it and was very pleased with it. So I think the staff have done an excellent job in initiating and getting this draft budget to us. We will have then at our study session, November, and did we not? Yeah, November 4th, Thursday evening, November 4th, 6:30 p.m., a public hearing, our first of two. on the budget, and there will be opportunity for both public comments as well as board comments and questions with regard to any possible changes. And then the second public hearing will be at the board meeting on Monday, November the 15th. Those are our upcoming meetings. Other events coming up, I already mentioned the Friends and Foundation board meeting next Monday, the 25th at 2 p.m. via Zoom. And I'm going to let Claudine mention the other event that's coming up that whoever scheduled it made sure I wouldn't be around or on the team.
Thanks, John. Critical. You all received the invitation from the EDC for that VERT co-working space. It's just me attempting to be a good messenger for you all. Actually get a lot of invitations, and one of them is from the chamber, and that is Bowling for Business. It's a fundraiser for the chamber, and I asked if anyone on staff bowls, and the answer is no. And I said, well, we make a perfect Patsy team. People will want to play us. And so we threw down the gauntlet, and the rec district is our adversary. For $10, you can come and watch your favorite librarians get whooped. I do love this from Cindy. Cindy, I'm going to tell your story because it was so darn funny. When I said, does anyone have any experience? Cindy said, oh, I used to be on a bowling league, and we were second to last. And then when I left the league, they were in the top 5. So here's what I know is going to happen. We're going to have the most fun. So Bowling for Business, Thursday night, November 11th, 5 o'clock. You know, it's just goofball fun. So if anyone would like to join us, we'd love for you to laugh with us and not at us.
Wish I could be there. It kind of reminds me of what happened after the flood and the volleyball at the fairgrounds.
We were dead last, but who had the most fun?
You had the most
we
fun.
did.
you and Curtis and the gang. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Anyone have any other business which they would like to bring before the board? We're being so efficient with our time these days. Even with the guest presentation, we've held this to less than an hour. Again, I'd like to thank the staff for all their efforts in helping us prepare for these meetings and making sure that our Zoom meeting is conducted well and recorded. And at this point, 7:22 p.m., I will call